What's up, grinders? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do a little bit of a story time. See, I'm right at the moment in the middle of making quite a large video, and I'm not going to have it out today. So I figured I'd share a story from my past. This is actually a story I've told once before in Esperanto about 10 years ago. No, about 7 years ago I told the story, but the occurrence of this story happened about 10 years ago. And it's probably one of the most craziest things that's happened to me as a YouTuber and as an Esperanto speaker. So I'm gonna have to code some of my words here or use words from other languages, so have fun like translating this because YouTube will demonetize me, probably age restrict this video, and may even send me a warning. Okay, so this is basically a story about an Esperanto speaking terroristo. I'm guessing you guys can guess what that word means. If not, well then I'll caption it, okay? There, you get that. So basically, about 10 years ago, I was on Twitter, you know, that old website, the one that changed to X as we all love it today. But anyway, I was on that website and I read an article, and this article was speaking about an Esperanto terroristo. And as you can see right here, it says, it goes into depth about this article, and it was a threat to a state university. Now, it says, after seeing the threat, which was translated from the constructed international language Esperanto to read, "If you leave an Ohio State University, I warn you, tomorrow at 15 hours, I will mortigos students and teachers with pafiloi. I have pafiloi and explodiloi in my room, which I will use." Platt first contacted university police and then the FBI. The threatening party posed the threat using Tor, a software that enables anonymity online. You get what I'm saying. So anyway, there was a threat. It was sent to a university, and it was and it was basically written in Esperanto, and it was threatening the university with, you know, destruction, basically. Now, when I saw this news article, I was like, what the fuck? Because, like, that is so outside the standard, like, what you would expect from an Esperanto speaker. Anyway, they didn't show what the threat was, so I couldn't, like, actually look at the quality of the Esperanto in it or anything like that. So I was just, like, on Twitter, and I wrote a thing saying, you know, as us Esperanto speakers obviously don't, like, condone this type of freaking thinking. Like, this is just ridiculous. Little did I know that our friend, the Esperanto-speaking terroristo, seemed to have been following me, at least on Twitter. I don't know who he was. I did not ever find out who he was. I don't know if anyone ever did. But this set off a series of events which I kept silent for a number of years because, well, I figured I did not want to feed into this guy's ego. And then I released a video about it like 3 years later, and obviously this guy was gone because, like, nothing ever happened after it. So I stayed silent for like 3 years about the entire thing. But basically what happened was that this guy sent threats here to this university, then he sent them to other universities, and I didn't know about any of these, at least at first. And then he sent them to a shopping center in Canada. He was just like, he was handing these things out like they were Esperanto green stars with candy inside or something, because this guy was on a mission. Now, it must have been around this point, before it got to the Canadian the Canadian shopping center, that he saw my thing on Twitter. And being the biggest Esperanto-speaking YouTuber at the time, this obviously set him off, because he started spiraling, man. Little did I expect what would happen next. Anyway, about 4 a.m. in the morning, Australian time, I get a phone call. And at the time, I was working in IT, and I was basically on call. So I just picked it up thinking, you know, it was some type of support call, and I was like, hello, what's going on? Like, what's happening? And then I heard something mumble, 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 Canadian mounted police mumble, mumble, and I was like, mounted who? What did you mount? Like, I was so confused, okay? And then they repeated themselves, and they were saying that they were the Canadian mounted police, and they were investigating me. And I'm like, bruh, you must have called the wrong number. I'm in Australia. I don't know if you're gonna mount your horse all the way down to here. Like, I was so confused, okay? But apparently, Evildea, had sent a threat to a Canadian friggin' shopping center, and they were investigating me because for some reason I decided to sign my name onto it. They found my details. I don't even know how they got my personal mobile number. Obviously some type of international sharing of details or whatever. But they started like questioning me about all this stuff, and I'm like, I don't know anything about this man. And then, like, as my brain started to wake up, I'm like, wait, isn't that like, this sounds like that guy over in the US. And they're like, what do you mean? What's this guy over in the US? Like, as if I was still linked to this. I'm like, no, there's some dude who's been doing this over in the US. And I was like, just go, like, Google up, like, just look it online. You'll find the news articles for it. And they still wanted me to help them. So they're like, can you send us all the information that you possibly know? And I'm like, well, can you send me, like, what he's been sending? And they never did, because I was curious to see the Esperanto or whatever. And I'm assuming it's a he at this stage, okay, just so you guys know. So eventually they sent me a follow-up email, and I'll show you this email. Okay, subject, your Reddit account. It wasn't my Reddit account, but anyway. I am Sergeant whatever from the Integrated National Security Enforcement Team with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in Canada. I'm getting in touch with you with regards to the threat posed on Reddit forum for Fort McMurray support thread, another user, Modit Sendista. And as soon as I saw this, I knew this guy did not speak Esperanto because he screwed up his endings. He's turned this word, which should be like someone who sends someone to death, into an adjective, which makes literally no sense unless he's using it as a name. It should be capitalized at the front. And then if you use it as a name, you could put an A at the end, but it means you're a female. So pretty sure they're not a female, but that's what they implied. Anyway, he said, has stated that you and him are traveling to Edmond, Canada, where you will be committing an act of violence by shooting innocent shoppers at West Edmond Mall with your AK-47s. We don't even use AK-47s in Australia. Like, what the hell? Down here, because I did serve in the military, and by the way, that did not help my cause. You'll hear about more of that in a minute. Anyway, we use Styres down here, okay, in Australia. So we don't use AK-47s or whatever. He said, we are unable to locate more information about Modit Sendista as his account has been suspended. Analyzing your account suggests that you have some history with this person. I don't know how I have any history with this person or whatever. Maybe they just meant like my one Twitter thing where I was like, we don't condone this shit. Anyway, I was wondering to speak to you with you to ascertain what information you have about this person. They sent this after they had already like spoken with me. So I was like, this is so confusing. I am aware that you work for blah. And then they listed out my entire work address. And I was like, okay, is this like a semi-veiled threat or something? Because like you now figured out I'm in Australia. What am I going to do? Pack these into my carry-on and go to Canada? I will be grateful if you can reply to this email as soon as you receive a contact number on which I can speak with you. And again, they asked for my contact number, but they already had it by this stage. So maybe they sent this email, then instantly figured out my contact number, contacted me, and then, you know, by the time I got out of my haze, I saw the email. But anyway, the point being is that they were seriously considering me in some way to be actually engaged in this entire thing. So I sent them the news clippings that I found. I told them a little bit based on what I saw there that this person clearly does not speak Esperanto very well, or based on this, very, very unlikely they are a female. Anyway, like I sent that information. I thought that was it, okay? I thought, you know, they'd go analyze it or whatever, move on with life. All things are good now, okay? Sweet. This guy was pissed at me for like that Twitter post, okay? Because the next thing I know, about a week later, I get a knock on my door. I go up to the door, I open it up because we ain't got one of those little peepholes or anything like that. And I look straight outside and there's 3 police officers, okay? And these guys are geared up. And like, normally when police go to your place in Australia, it's like they don't wear too much gear. These guys were geared, okay? So I was like, hello, you 3, and it instantly hit me like what was going on. Like there was no reason there'd be 3 geared up cops coming to my place. And I'm like, I'm guessing you're here about those emails. And they're like, so you're involved in some emails? And I was like, nope, but I've been living through this now for about a month because like apparently there was other things that happened along the way and I'd been contacted by different groups. But anyway, these cops are like, they start asking me questions. I'm like, look, you can come in. I've got nothing to hide, okay? So they come into the house quite happily, and I'm just being chill as, and I'm like, okay, what do you need to know? Like, just tell me what's going on, because I'm sure someone's using my name. And they're like, yes, that's true. We've actually received threats against the local politician in your name, your online name, which we've traced to you here. And I'm like, yep, that sounds about right. That's what's been happening over in Canada and the US. And I gave them the details, obviously, for before that. Now, you could imagine my wife at the time suddenly seeing 3 police officers rock up into our house, because this was like early in the morning. She was confused as hell. What the hell had I been doing to like justify 3 coppers rocking up to my place, okay? So she was like, Evildea, like obviously use my real name, what's going on here? And I'm like, I'll explain this to you later. And then she whips out her phone to start taking a photo with me and these 3 geared up cops, and they look at her and she's like, I'm not allowed to do this here, am I? And they're like, no. She's like, okay, put it away type of thing. She was like confused, but also kind of excited about the whole situation. So I sat down with them, and these were 3 older guys. Actually, sorry, it was 2 older guys and 1 like older lady. Anyway, so one of the guys, he started asking the questions, and it was straight up evident to me that this guy had no clue about like anything to do with like the online world. Like these guys were like old school, you know, they probably got all their news from, you know, TV stations type of thing. So first up, I had to explain to him what is a YouTuber. Like, I'm a dude who's online making videos. Remember, this is like, this is more than 10 years ago. So it's like, it wasn't that big of a thing. Nowadays, obviously, they all know. Anyway, so like, I had to explain to him what is a YouTuber. Then I had to explain to him what the fuck Esperanto is and why I speak a made-up language, okay? But they were more interested in my military background, because I had served in the military and I had specialist training in certain things. So like, they wanted to get those details, but I had to show them my YouTube account, okay? And I was like, here's my YouTube account, and like, I had the worst thumbnails at the time. It was like me shirtless doing stupid shit with Esperanto, okay? Like the most, like just the stuff you don't generally want to share with a bunch of coppers. Anyway, so they're here scrolling through my playlist of Esperanto videos, and yeah, that was not a great look. And they're like, so you do this online? I was like, yep. And they're like, willingly? I was like, yep. So finally they get what Esperanto is. They understand the whole YouTubing scene, and then they understand, you know, after I explain the whole Twitter thing, that seriously someone's just got like some type of grudge against me, and they explain like they had to investigate due to my military background. I was like, that's cool. You want any more information, just let me know, you know, like just email me, whatever. And they're like, okay, we'll put you on a list of, if your name comes up, we've already investigated, so we don't need to further investigate you. They did actually get a few more attempts against different politicians here in Australia with my name, because every now and then they would send me through stuff and they would ask me to verify, like, if I got anything in regards to this. Now, I don't have all the emails here because this email account actually does not exist anymore, and that's why I'm referencing this video here. So that is the most crazy thing that's ever happened to me as a YouTuber and also an Esperanto speaker, and I figured I wanted to share that stuff with you guys, because if you ever want to get into the YouTube scene, just expect some crazy ass people out there to be like, to just be crazy. That's pretty much it. I'll see you all in the next video.